I guess what's the underlying feeling of needing to accomplish these things? You know what I mean? Like if we're judging ourselves based on not accomplishing certain things, is it a fear of being complacent? Is it a fear of being lazy? Is it a fear of feeling worthless?
Yeah,
like because
all
only
of those things.
People that accomplish all these things, those are worthy people. Those are people that are, have their shit together. You're not one of those people if you don't do that.
They've earned the right to be here.
This is such a reoccurring theme. Oh my God. I mean, this is, right. Earn the right to be here. Like earn my keep. You ever hear that? I remember my parents used to say that.
Earn your keep.
You gotta earn your keep around here. Welcome to Confessions of a Financial Advisor, the antidote to conventional financial wisdom. My name is Al, and I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years. This podcast will explore the emotional and psychological factors that affect our behaviors. All of the other financial podcasts out there will talk about the numbers and the math. We will confront the stories that we all fuse with that ultimately set the course for our lives. I am not looking for new clients and have no intention on running for any kind of office. I'm going to tell you like it is and call out all the commonplace BS. Now, let's get into Confessions of a Financial Advisor. Okay, and we are live for episode 32. It's titled Judgement. I'm here with Diane.
Hey, Al.
Partner in crime is here. And we're going to dive into judgments.
It's a big topic.
Which seems very timely.
Relevant.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world now. This is, I don't even know when in June, sometime in June 2020.
The middle of June.
2020 is the never-ending year.
2020 has been a long decade.
Holy cow.
It goes on and on. It's like, pandemic.
Yeah. So we decided to dig into judgment. And I like starting these with like definitions. And I always get surprised when I read the definition of a word because like a lot of times there's like dual meanings to it.
Oh, often.
Yeah, often, right.
It's reality of life.
But I was just thinking of judgment as the first definition, which is it's the process of forming an opinion by discerning and comparing information. So, right, you're just forming your opinion based on what you think is your reality, your facts, what you're bringing in. And then the second definition was more of like a biblical one where it said judgment is misfortune viewed as divine punishments. And so I was like, let's not go down that path. We know what that path is. All right. Again,
you're going to burn in hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Divine punishments.
Oh God.
But it's like I don't know if you know people that have the thought process. I hate even saying it. I've heard people say like when Katrina happens, well, those people down there, they were evil.
They deserved it.
They deserving of
the actual
things.
Hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
what? God came down and judged
and
them.
Took out the whole city of New Orleans. Like,
yeah, like that kind of idea. Or like AIDS. Like when AIDS came around, people would be like, oh, well, the gays deserve it. Like fucked up stuff. Like really and this is like...
This is recent.
And this is what people think. I mean, for people to say it, there's plenty of other people thinking
that don't say it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, again, we won't go down that path because we're going to stay a little bit lighter hearted on this. We wanted to get more into like self-judgments.
Yeah, that's where I first go with it. I told you, like I judge myself all the time. And I catch myself doing it, but I judge myself. I'm faster to judge myself. I mean, I judge other people too, like I will admit. So it's raining here in Charlotte today. Some neighbor is out mowing their damn lawn. And I'm sitting in my living room. I'm working on my laptop and I'm like thinking to myself, what an idiot. Like I judge other people.
I mows the lawn in the rain.
I'm like, what the hell are you doing? It's raining. Why are you mowing your lawn today of all days? Like, yeah. Anyway, but I catch myself. Like I had the thought and then I went, oh, you're judging. Look at where you're going with this. Like stop. Take a step back. Maybe they had valid reasons of their own for what they're doing and their behavior.
Yeah.
Who am I to judge?
That's a common human trait. That's what we do.
That we all fall into.
Judgment's got a bad connotation, but it's what we do. We look around our world and we judge it.
Yeah, we create stories.
So
based on how we're perceiving the world. Yeah, like driving is a really good example. Like, oh God, what an idiot.
But the self-judgment's a different kind of judgment. It's a different kind of storyline.
Oh, and sometimes more dangerous.
Harsher.
Like, because I'm not walking around yelling at other drivers. Well,
sometimes,
but
you're not judging your own driving.
Sometimes I do. But no, I judge myself. A lot of times it's more, well, you should have this figured out already, or you should be farther along, or you should have gotten more done. And it's a harshness with myself. I'm the one doing it to myself. Like nobody else cares. Like how many tests I got checked off my list today.
Yeah. And it's like almost accomplishment based.
Yeah.
Like you were saying before, like my memoir has been sitting there for too long. I got to get back to it.
Why haven't you finished this yet? Yeah.
Yeah. This last 2 weeks has been my taxes. I'm like,
oh God,
finish your freaking taxes. Just finish them. Then you can stop thinking about it. But then like once you check that off, it's something else on the back end. It's like there's always this like rolling lists of things that I need to do in order to feel like I can relax. And I was telling you, even like I was up at 3 a.m., had like a full day until like 11. Then I'm like just conked out for a half an hour. I was tired. I woke up like in a panic, like just, oh shit, did I miss something? Check my phone. Oh my God. Like God forbid I fall asleep for a half an hour.
Right.
Like the world's going to come to an end. Like it's going to grind to a halt because Al wasn't awake to solve the world's problems.
You're not that special, dude.
I'm so not that special. I know. But think about that storyline.
Yeah.
It's easy for you to tell me that. I can't tell myself that.
Right.
In that moment.
Right.
I just feel it.
Because it's the pressure we put on ourselves. And where's that coming from? Taking care of everybody else, being sure everybody else is happy, fulfilling other people's real or perceived expectations. Like,
yeah.
All ridiculous. Like,
and I just think again, not to sound morbid, but if we just died tomorrow, the world just goes on. Yeah, people would grieve, but guess what? The world would go on, and everything you have around you, my laptop, my papers, it would all figure itself out, and the world would nothing would even skip a beat, really. But we think we're so, I don't know if I think I'm important. I just think I'm trying to keep this train rolling. I don't know what train it is. I don't know where I'm driving it to. Like it just needs to keep rolling for whatever reason. And so I came upon a quote, which I like to do. When you judge another, you do not define them, you define yourself.
Yes.
So it's like when you're judging other people, it automatically makes you feel bad, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like I never feel good about judging someone else.
No, it's not uplifting or empowering. No. It feels heavy.
Yeah, you're carrying it. It's like you're carrying that. You're
all
not
internal.
Getting rid of it. Yeah.
I mean, you could unload it on other people.
Yeah. And even worse, though, then you should feel even worse sometimes. Maybe in that very brief moment, you feel some kind of release, but then you carry it with you. Yeah.
That's where my default setting internally with myself about my first memoir. And I'm like, why is this taking so long at so many points in this process? Like at first it was fun and then it stopped being fun. And I was like, oh, God, I gotta pick this up again. I've gone through this book. I lost count how many times. I'm so sick of this damn book. But I'll resist and then I'll judge myself for resisting. I finally, it's almost done at this point, but there's a few pieces that I still have yet to do related to it. But it's just like, what are you resisting? Like, why is this taking so long? And why haven't you finished this yet? Why haven't you accomplished more?
For some reason, I have a feeling if you were talking to me, if I was the one with the memoir and I came to you and said what you just told me, like, can't get back. Why don't I just finish this one? You would be so much more compassionate for me.
Totally.
You'd be like, don't worry about it. I get it. People go through that. It's okay. Like,
I just told a ghostwriting client, they were almost apologizing to me. They're like, I'm sorry, this is taking longer than I expected it to take. And I wrote back and I was like, you totally have permission to simply go at your own pace. You set the pace.
It's so freaking easy to tell other people.
Why can't I do that to myself? I'm sitting here like ruminating about fucking needs to get picked up again.
Like it's common sense, right? I mean, when you think about it, it's like you're doing this to other people, like you're allowing them, and you believe it. It's not like you just.
No, I meant it. We're so quick to extend grace to other people and withhold it from ourselves.
Right.
And that's not a fun way to live. It's really not. I even told my editor friend who's doing the formatting on the book, I wrote back to her because she was like, here it is. And I'm like, oh God, this may take me a little while. And she went, just take as much time as you need. I figured you may need some time to go through it. And she, again, was extending compassion and grace to me. And I withhold it from myself.
Yeah.
That's messed up. Like, why can't we be kinder to ourselves? Like, you're doing the best you can. And I told you recently, there has just been a lot lately. I didn't look at email for 4 days recently. And it was, glorious, I had my phone with me. It's on my phone. I mean, I don't get notifications, so I have to actually go in and intentionally check it. But for 4 full days in a row, I did not open
That's impressive.
The email account on my phone. I was impressed with myself. It was blissful.
I am.
And I'm like,
I can't remember the last time I've done that.
The day that I went in and picked it back up, I'm like, oh, the world didn't end.
It never does.
It's like it's all sitting there waiting for me. Like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And yet we feel this sense of urgency. Like, I have to get it done. I have to reply. I have to communicate. And we put these expectations on ourselves that are so freaking ridiculous. Like, more. We have to get more done.
I feel like in business too, like
being self-employed,
but just in any type of, especially in financial advisory work, like I've just always been taught, like, you always call a client back within 24 hours.
Immediately. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or if not sooner, like 24 hours is the absolute limit, but you call them back. And like, there's so many other professions that I deal with that nobody calls me back.
Right.
Like my property management company that handles like my rental property, the guy doesn't call me back. I'm like, dude, I've left you 2 messages. You haven't even responded.
Yeah.
And this is like the norm, like contractors and like,
oh God.
And when somebody finally does call you back, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. The bar sets so low.
Yes, it is. Customer service bar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a blessing and a curse in some ways. Because like now, for instance, like we're doing this podcast, 2 clients have already left me messages that I need to call after we record this.
Yeah.
And I'm already kind of like a little bit, don't forget. I got my my appointment reminders on my computer. I'm like, all right, make sure I call them back. It almost makes me sick to feel like I've missed some, like if I forget to call someone back, I'll feel literally nauseous. Like I almost base my integrity on doing those things. Basically, not just calling people back, but just responding and being there for people, especially clients.
And technology has accelerated that experience for sure. Like, back when you and I were growing up, we didn't have cell phones.
Nope.
Like, we didn't have smartphone. I had a BlackBerry, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 years ago. It wasn't until I didn't text until I had that BlackBerry. Yeah. I didn't have email on my phone. And so then we have all these notifications and my phone is on silent right now. It's next to me, but I can't hear it and I don't need to check it. Like, I'll get back to you. I can take an hour to record a podcast. Yeah. You can wait. And yet we judge ourselves like for failing. Yeah. Like if we don't get it right, we feel like a failure.
Well, again, it's like how many plates are you going to spin? You know, like you could spin 4 plates. You're going to try to spin 6?
There were a couple of months I was working from bed for a while after the whole trauma thing happened. And then I finally was like, I actually don't like working from bed. So being a part of some podcasts actually was what helped me get my laptop out of my bedroom. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because I immediately post-trauma, I was so mad. I walked downstairs when my family was here, grabbed the laptop and pulled it into my bedroom. It was chaotic. And I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want all this stuff in my personal space. Like, I don't want to have all this technology here. I don't want this in this space. But I had to allow myself to do it for the few months where it was really physically necessary for me. But then afterward, I'm like, hell no. But the point of this was I spent the last 6 months of 2019 working both businesses. And I picked my head up at some point in September and was like, when is the last time I had a full day off? And I couldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
This isn't how I want it. Why am I putting this pressure on myself to keep saying yes to all these things? And it's like, because real estate clients were coming out of the woodwork wanting to work with them. Here we go again.
Can't miss an opportunity.
Right. And I spent 6 months living like that and working literally 7 days a week. So last weekend, I was telling you, I gave myself time. I took a nap yesterday morning and I allowed myself to rest because I felt like I needed to. Mm-hmm. And that is so radical. Like 5 years ago, me would be, even 2 years ago, me would be, obviously a year ago, me would be horrified. But we put so much pressure on ourselves to do it all and to be it all and to have it all. And that's not sustainable. That's not the way I want to live.
Yeah.
I don't want to work 7 days a week. I can.
Yeah. I think on the flip side of judgment too, is we start to think that there's this destination of one day I'm never going to judge myself. And one day I'm never going to judge others. And one day I'll be over all this and I'll be a bigger person. Yeah. Like I'll have so much self-compassion that I'll never have self-judgment. Mm-hmm. That's not true. That's such a false belief.
Yeah.
And just listening to people that have spent decades upon decades dedicating their lives to working on themselves, meditators, they'll tell you the same thing, that they have self-judgment too.
Yeah. We talked about the practice of meditation is to get more and more comfortable with not judging your own thoughts. Like you're not your thoughts. We're not, who we are is not our thoughts. Like our thoughts just come and go. And the goal of meditation is just to be the observer and the witness to them.
Yeah, that's the key point, is that I think we all think deep down that we create our own thoughts because we're told that we drive our own lives. You think the thoughts that you put into your head it doesn't work that way. Thoughts just arise out of thin air. Mm-hmm. Because to think that you are initiating your own thoughts would mean that you have to have the thought to have the thought. Mm-hmm. There has to be a thought preceding the thought you're going to have.
Right.
Otherwise, the thought's just coming up.
Right.
You're not in control of that. No. You go walk across the street and some car screeches out and you have this thought that guy's an asshole. You didn't say, let me have the thought that this guy's an asshole. You just had the thought.
It wasn't premeditated judgment. It just came up.
But I think we're in this weird kind of, again, dichotomy of like thinking that we can, that we're almost like we have free will to create our own thoughts. And then when we have thoughts that we don't want, we're like self-judgmental. Like, why are you having that thought again? You've had that thought 100 times over. Stop having that thought.
Right.
Instead of like what a meditator would do, the thought is independent. It's just, you just want to watch them go by, like clouds going by the sky. Like they're going to come and they're going to go.
Cling on to them. Yeah. To let them go.
Emotions are similar. Like, so for instance, think about like the last time you were angry. Angry is like something it's finite. It's a short window. Yeah. Like you can't, once it passes, you're moved on to something else. That's gone. You're on to something else. Same with a thought. You have one thought. Mm-hmm. An hour later, you don't even remember what you thought. You're thinking about something else. So things just keep like kind of moving on. I think it's when once we start merging with these thoughts or clinging to them or.
Yeah, it is similar to feelings. Like when all that damn grief a few weeks ago, there were just waves of emotion. And I really had to allow myself to just feel it, to feel whatever I was feeling and to not get upset with myself for having those feelings come up because they were legitimate feelings.
Right.
I didn't create them. They just came up in response to some external circumstances that happened. Not judging myself. I'm proud of myself for how far I've come. And we talked about that too. We're so quick to judge ourselves for what we didn't check off our to-do list. And we're so slow to give ourselves credit for how far we've come or what we have accomplished. I picked up the formatting of the memoir over the weekend. And I got through about 25% of it so far, just because it's up to me as the author to give the final approval.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh God, you know what? That honestly felt really good to pick it up and make some progress.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of judging myself for the fact that I let it sit for 2.5 months waiting for me.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm ready to do it now. And I wasn't 2.5 months ago. So
I guess what's the underlying feeling of needing to accomplish these things? You know what I mean? Like if we're judging ourselves based on not accomplishing certain things,
mm-hmm.
Is it a fear of being complacent? Is it a fear of being lazy? Is it a fear of feeling worthless?
Yeah,
like because
all
only
of those things.
People that accomplish all these things, those are worthy people. Those are people that are, have their shit together. You're not one of those people if you don't do that.
They've earned the right to be here.
This is such a reoccurring theme. Oh my God. I mean, this is, right. Earn the right to be here. Like earn my keep.
Mm-hmm.
You ever hear that? I remember my parents used to say that.
Earn your keep.
You're going to earn your keep around here.
I do tell the cats that. I'm like, when you start contributing to the mortgage payment.
Right. They don't understand.
Or like, whatever. Mom. Yeah.
Watching the thoughts without judgment. That's like
witnessing
the thought. Right. And just, again, knowing that, number one, you didn't create them.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, you don't need to merge with them. Like they can be something completely separate. You could literally bear witness to them and have them float right and know that every thought that you've ever had over the last 40 something years of your life, it passed. There's not one thought that didn't pass. It all passes, right? Eventually.
I had a lot of thoughts related to my ex-husband while I was divorcing him.
Oh, I know you did. The audience knows you did too.
Clearly by this point. We talk about him so often.
Yeah, lots of judgmental thoughts. Yeah.
So immediately post-divorce, there's a whole chapter in my first memoir called Letters Never Sent.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get the thoughts out of my head because they were hurting me by carrying them. So I wrote letters, some to my ex, some to myself, that I knew I was never going to send. Like I knew I would never actually communicate it, but that actually was really healing for me.
Yeah.
And some of them they're well written, but some were quite vitriolic. Like, oh, those are some strong words you have, Jordan. Get
it out. Right. Purge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what was the Emerson quote that you have several quotes that you told me that I really liked?
I have one by Carl Jung that he says, thinking is difficult. That's why people judge. It's like, you don't want to like go through the facts of the situation because that's too cumbersome, right? It's too, it takes too much effort to like go through the facts. I know we weren't going to go down this path, but in current events, there's a lot going on with like protesting, rioting, all that kind of thing. I don't have any kind of hard stance on any of this, but I do feel that many people that do protest or that claim that they have a certain belief don't know any of the facts behind the situation. Maybe they've heard a few headlines.
They're making their own judgments.
Yeah. And based on maybe information that's not accurate, So, I mean, the whole idea behind having a belief to me is like, there's got to be some sort of accuracy of facts behind it. That's the scariest part to me is when I'm around people that have this hard belief and then you present them with like the real facts and they're like, I don't care. I don't care about the facts. This is my belief.
Right.
Like that's terrifying to me. Because there's no conversation there. You can't have any type of dialogue there.
It's not open-minded. And you want to go down this pathway?
Let's do
it. We'll just go with traditional religious organizations are very much the same way. They're like, this is the way it is. This is the way the Bible's interpreted. The Bible's just a book that was written by men. How many years ago?
Yeah.
Whoever was holding the pen has the power. Who do you think wrote the Bible? It wasn't women. So and I was watching earlier today an Instagram Live with Glennon Doyle and a writer, author. Her name is Sue Monk Kidd. I actually have her book. It's called The Book of Longings.
The Book of Longings. Okay.
Fascinating conversation between the two of them.
Yeah.
What stories are we believing? It's actually a fiction book about first century Galilee.
It's hard not to get into religion when you talk about judgment because
religious people can be so judgmental, so quick to judge other people. Like, I'm right, you're wrong. It's like, well,
they have one word that basically nullifies the whole entire situation. That's faith. So if there's no facts, then you could just use the word faith, and that overcomes any other argument.
Right.
It supersedes everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why do you believe this? Well, where are the facts about this? So you're telling me that this book that was written by men 2,000 years ago, whatever it was, 1,500 years ago, that's the word of God? Yes. How do you know that? I just have faith. Conversation ends.
But conversation over.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, nowhere to go from there. I mean, again, I'm becoming more okay with it, as you say. You know, you listen to authors and you can bypass like the whole religious kind of.
I read between the lines.
I'm starting to realize that, I used to take a more of a harder stance on it. And I kind of believe that you almost sort of need, I'll put the religious aspects of people's lives like in that spirituality type group. Everybody needs something
to believe in.
Spiritual. Yeah. It can't all be science based. And I think it's good to have both. It's just hard to, again, it comes down once people like have these convictions about things that they know nothing about. That's where it gets scary, because then in how many other aspects of their life will they do the same thing? So what if, somebody starts telling you, you know what, let's go back to lynching because lynching was a good thing. I like lynching. All right, let's do lynching. Why? Well, it says in the Bible, or I don't know, whatever. Like in the Bible, it condones slavery, it condones, killing homosexuals. Why aren't we doing that? Well, that's because it's, it was written a long time ago. Oh, so now we're discerning what's the right information and what was accurate and what's not accurate.
You're the judge and jury.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's just whatever's convenience. Oh, I'll believe this part and then we'll take out that part, and I'll believe this part and then forget about that part. They didn't really mean that. Judgment. I said we weren't going to go in that direction, but it's hard not to.
Tell me the Emerson quote again.
All right. So the Emerson quote goes, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment."
I don't have any experience with that. Only like 40 years of it.
Well, that's where you can't get away from judgment.
Right.
We're all judging constantly, and we know it. We know it about ourselves, and we know it about others. So when people tell you, like, you know what, you got to just not care about what other people think.
Well, like corporate America, like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Well, who says who?
Yeah.
Who wrote that rule book? I think it's time to throw it out and burn it.
Yeah, you got to drink the corporate Kool-Aid just like I do. Oh, you don't believe what we believe?
You have to be at your desk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it comes down to comparison too. That I'm right, you're wrong.
Yes.
It's what's underlying judgment.
This is the way we've always done things. And if you don't do them that way, you're wrong.
Fall in line.
Yeah.
If you step out of line.
That's right. You're going against the herd. You can't go against the herd.
Yeah.
It is. When he says it's the greatest accomplishment, I think he's just trying to say that it's just a never-ending struggle. It's one of those things that you're constantly dealing with when we always talk about there's no destination to this. I don't think there's a destination to judgments. So I listened to this lady, Tara Brach. Tara Brach wrote Radical Acceptance. Great book. She's a meditation teacher.
Is she a loving kindness meditation?
I think she does loving kindness meditation. I think she does many forms, but she's written a few books. The one that I remember is Radical Acceptance. And she talks a lot about this idea that like judgment doesn't go away. Like, so she even she gets personal, like on her podcast. She's like, I realize the things inside of me and it's accomplishment based. She's like, I know that I like to have my green tea in the morning, which gives me caffeine. She's like, I think I have a little bit of a caffeine addiction. And that gets me going. And when I get going, I accomplish more. And that makes me feel good about myself.
Right.
And so she's starting to realize that, but then she judges herself that she's a meditation teacher. Why are you drinking caffeine? What do you have to accomplish? You're a meditation teacher. Like, you're teaching people to relax and be. not do, be.
Mm-hmm.
So there's conflict there.
We're human beings, not human doings.
That's right.
We're taught the opposite in our society. You're defined.
Yeah, but I think what happens is we have this ideal that we think we can hit this place of complete self-compassion, no judgment. It's not there. I think it's a work in progress all the time.
It's like that upward spiral that James
Hollis,
talked about.
Right. You come back to it. Maybe you get better at it. It's not like it doesn't get easier or it doesn't soften.
So one of the quotes I love, I don't even know who the hell said it, but progress, not perfection.
Yes.
And I've told this to you, and we've even talked about it with some of the blog posts. I've sent them to you, and I'm like, we're going with done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect.
Yeah, because I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Yes.
That was one of my internal defaults. Have you ever heard of the Enneagram?
Yeah, I have.
Do you know what you are?
I don't, but I was just listening to somebody I was Brene Brown, that podcast. Is that the one you listened to?
No.
Brene Brown had the guy on that was talking about it, the Enneagrams.
There's some great books about it. You might be a 4. I don't know. I'm judging you right now.
There it is. Judgment. Yeah.
I'm a 2 with a 1 wing, which the 2s are the helpers, and the shadow side of that, or that personality, is people pleasing. I've got quite a lot of experience with that. And then the 1 wing, that aspect is, I forget the word they have for it. It's not perfection, but that's the dark side of that category, is perfectionism.
Yeah.
Like waiting until it's perfect to start. Like, just start. Like, even with me picking up the damn book, just start. Like, just pull up the damn file and just start. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to get it perfect. The edits that I'm making right now on that book, and there's not many of them, I'm catching like, oh, there's an extra word in there. And
it's never ending, but it'll probably be a never ending editing process if
I don't let it the hell go. This book wanted to be written. This has been 2020. It's been a 4-year process, which is a long time to sit with one book. Yeah. That's probably why I'm so sick of the damn thing.
I think like when you get started on something, your mind automatically tries to go to the ends and then it becomes overwhelming, right? It's like sort of, instead of just being in the process of doing it, sometimes your mind's like, so much.
You don't have to do 100% at a time. Like, you can go through and do 25% of reviewing it and then pick it up another day, and it'll still be there. Yeah.
That's like the progress is better than perfect. Yeah.
There is a book, I think his name is Ian Morgan Cron and Suzanne Stabile, about the Enneagram, that I have read multiple times. It was eye-opening for me. And actually, one of the writers that I follow, Jen Hatmaker, her podcast is how I heard about that book. And then I read it and devoured it, because anything personality-wise, I'll just eat that up.
Yeah.
But it was really fascinating. It's an ancient framework, basically, for how we as people show up in the world. And it really, it's so uncomfortable because they talk about your shadow side.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable to look at that. Like, anyway, another book recommendation. I forget what it's called, but those are the authors.
Okay.
The Road Back to You.
The Road Back to You.
I think that's what it's called.
If you check out Brene Brown's podcast, she interviewed someone that was talking about that, who had a book.
Yeah.
And
there's a bunch of people who are highly proficient in that whole framework.
I mean, he was going through so many different personality. Like, it was like, it wasn't just 4. There was like...
There's 9, and then there's multiple combinations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more than I could keep up with. I was like, holy shit, this keeps going.
I have really found the Enneagram to be very, very helpful.
Okay.
Just to keep myself in check.
Yeah.
Like, okay, where are you saying yes from? Or where are you saying no from? Are you saying no out of fear? And are you saying yes out of wanting to please other people?
Yeah.
And those are questions that I continue to ask myself, because those are some of my biggest struggles.
Do you think like those no or yes answers come from like an internal, like physical experience? So for instance, if you're, depending on the state that you're in, you know, if you didn't get sleep, you're a little anxious, you're a little too caffeined up, and somebody calls you and you're going to have a different response than if you had a good night's sleep and you're feeling good and you're feeling centered.
Rested.
I always think of those kinds of things. Like my internal experience sometimes affects my decision-making process.
Yes.
Or again, I mean, I'm like the guy that thinks that meditation is the greatest thing in the world and freaking never does it. I'm like, I've done it for like 2 weeks in a row at my longest stretch.
So you're saying you're a hypocrite?
I'm a complete hypocrite. Like I'm so disciplined in so many different ways, but sitting down with my eyes closed for freaking 10 minutes a day, I just don't do it. Like I don't know what my block is. I know how important it is. I could see
the value
why.
of it.
Yeah, totally. But again, like watching the grass grow, like it doesn't happen overnight. Like you have to do this for a long period of time.
That's why they call it a practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want the immediate gratification. I am. But I see like the benefit to it. And I think it's one of those things where one day I'm going to be like, why haven't I done this my entire life?
Right. I first started using guided meditations while I was very deeply unhappily married, just to get to sleep. And like, I just can't keep thinking. I have to just listen to somebody talk to me and slow down my mind so that I can be more of the witness and the observer and not get caught up in all the thoughts.
Yes.
Because there were a lot of very dark thoughts that I was having, particularly toward him at that time.
You were meditating for his sake. So you wouldn't kill him.
For his personal safety. Yes, that's a very accurate statement, actually.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, and we talked about, one of the other things we talked about is how courage and fear, they're inextricably tied to one another. The concept that the fear is ever going to go away is such a load of crap. When we're challenging ourselves and moving out of our comfort zones, fears are going to come up.
Yeah.
And it's about having the courage to take, whether it's action or non-action, and allowing yourself to rest. You know, you're gonna experience a level of fear. It gets easier. Like I'm a public speaker now. 7 years ago, I couldn't say my name in public.
Right. So, I mean, there's a differentiation. So when you first started public speaking and you did it, that took courage. Now it doesn't take that kind of courage. It
doesn't take as much. It still takes
as much. But without I guess the idea is that we automatically think like the movies, like, you know, the Congressional Medal of Honor guy that dives on a grenade with no fear, saving it. No, that guy had fear. We've created this storyline that courage can happen, like if you're real confident and you just take charge and you do things, that's courage. No, courage means you're overcoming fear. And when you talk to some of these or listen to some of the Congressional Medal of Honor guys, they were terrified out of their minds. You know, listening to one like recently, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's talking about the experience about being like horrified and terrified and like, and I think we have this idea because you watch commercials and you're watching these, you know, football players and basketball players.
Or you have
the
the inspirational poster on the wall. It's like, that makes me sick.
There is a company that does like the opposite of the inspirational posters. Like,
oh, really?
I got to remember the name of it. I totally want to plug it. A friend of mine brought a poster in and it just shows this guy like tripping across like the finish line and like guys passing him.
Yeah.
And he said, basically on the top of it, it's just failure. And on the bottom, it says, when your best just wasn't good enough. It's like the anti-inspirational post. It's supposed to be funny. I guess I didn't deliver that too well. Yeah. Like in bold letters, it says failure, you know, instead of saying like success or accomplishment. That was hilarious.
Be brave. Yeah. Be bold, decisive. Like,
yeah.
Whatever.
Self-judgment, judgment of other people. We all do it.
We all experience it.
And it's something that we're built to do. Think just observing your world, you're in constant judgments. I mean, judgment's like a very broad term. It's just
creating internal thought. It's been experiencing.
Forming opinions, interpreting, right? Just seeing like the inflection in other people's eyes. Very like we're so... our senses are so designed to pick up on such little nuances of things, like with other people, like their body posture, their eye movement, everything. Like
the nonverbal communication.
Yeah, but to an extent that like I don't think we really get. You can really see when you're communicating, like somebody's looking down, or they're like playing with their hands, or they put their hands behind their back, or they lean forward, or they lean back, or they're breathing heavy, or there's so many different little nuanced things that are happening that we're feeding off each other, and you're making like little judgments. Not a bad judgment or a good judgment. You're making, forming opinions.
Your personal judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the tough one is that self-judgment. That's everybody struggles with that.
I think that's the hardest challenge.
And just to roll it back around, like you said, you saying it to yourself is the hardest thing. In the same breath, you're telling me that you told a friend in the same situation. No, just take your time doing it.
Right.
I do the same exact thing. And I know it. And I try to remind myself of it. It's still so ingrained. There's almost like a voice behind the voice saying, stop listening. No, you can't take it easy. Stop listening to that. Like there's this deep down feeling of like all that fluffy stuff that you tell other people, that doesn't apply to you. You can't let your guard down. You got to keep going.
I don't even know the full story, but of the two wolves, it wasn't an Indian proverb or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's actually a podcast based on it. Somebody named it like after that.
Yeah. So basically goes that you have a wolf on each of your shoulders, and it's the conversation. I think it was a conversation between an elder and a child.
Yes.
And the child's question was, I'm going to butcher this story, but the child's question to the elder was, well, which wolf wins? And the elder's response was the one you feed.
Yeah.
So there's one wolf is the voice of compassion, and the other is the voice of judgment and fear. And that's what underlying at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think underlying a lot of the forms of judgment that we see in our world, they're based in fear.
Yeah.
They're rooted in fear.
Because to have self-compassion is sort of leaving you somewhat vulnerable, or at least we think we are, right? Like you're being easy with yourself. So now like you're letting your guard down.
Yeah.
But wait, I got to have this protective shell. No. Self-compassion. Be easy with yourself. Take a nap. Don't have to produce. And then there's like that part of you in you that's just like, don't slow down. Don't slow down. Don't slow down. So, but once you can get more comfortable with that, and again, I take comfort in just people like Tara Brach, who's been practicing her entire life, that says there's aspects of her life she still struggles with this, but she can see it.
And I think that's part of why Brene Brown is so wildly popular.
Yes.
Because she shares her personal stories from her family. Like she has shared fights with her husband. Like she shares her own shit. And I think that's why so many people are drawn and relate so strongly with her, because she's real. And she's a shame researcher and has been for decades. Like she could just have this polished exterior. Like I got it all figured out. I don't struggle with this stuff.
Well, it's like they're the opposite of the highlight reel. Like they're telling you that they're dealing with shit. Like you're not putting them on a pedestal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. Once you put somebody on a pedestal, you're like, I can't accomplish that. Like, how do they do that? Like they're always self-compassionate? No, they're not. They could say they are.
No.
And I guess that's why gurus become so popular, right? Because like you start to put that person on this pedestal. You're like, I want to be like that. You ever watch that movie or that show, Wild Wild Country?
No.
Oh, if you get a chance, I think it's on Netflix.
Wow.
It's about a guru out in Oregon who forms a whole commune. This is a true story back in the 60s. Okay. You'll never believe where it goes.
What is it called again? Wild
Wild Country. Okay. Yeah, real good. That was a good way to wrap it up, actually. I like what you just said.
You like a lot of things that I say. So humble and modest.
Proud of yourself, aren't you?
I am proud of my willingness to just show the hell up and talk. Like, that shocks me how willing I am to do it. I've been doing it for 2 years now, but like you show up and you have pre-show notes written out on a legal pad, and I'm just like,
I do. I got bullet points. I reel you back in.
Well, I take notes during our pre-show conversations so that I have a frame of reference. But yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I try to bring it back around sometimes. So episode 33, next week, we're going to talk about creative pursuits. And we both have them, just about how we've gotten there and how to open up to them. And
well, sharing our experience in navigating our creative pursuits, because you created the blog and the podcast was a passion project of yours. For me, it's writing and my experience of writing and then publishing my first memoir, which the business coach that I hired, who's kicking my ass right now.
Creative pursuit, and like how, sometimes like when you're in that flow state and you're like writing's coming easy for you, and like
what the reality of engaging in creative pursuits is like, because it's not always easy.
No, a lot of times it's not easy. I would even go so far to say the majority of the time it's not easy. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it can be pleasurable. And a lot of times it can flow, but a lot of times
I got nothing. I got no words today. I'm like,
you're wrestling in a sand pit with words, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to talk about next week. Creative pursuits. So come join us, faconfessions.com, and like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah.
All the things.
All those things. Yeah. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.